Good day. In this quick video, I'm going to share with you 3 tips to help you to significantly improve your chances to pass interviews with Amazon. Okay. Number 1, you should understand that most candidates, while considering an Amazon interview, prepare on their leadership principles. Okay. So, the context would be that the better you understand their leadership principles, the better you're going to pitch them during these job interviews. Whereas in my experience, the challenge seems to be spotting the principles from the questions you're getting asked during job interviews. And the way I know this is both coaching people, but I was also able to measure this by implementing some quizzes that would test one's ability to spot the leadership principles from the question gets asked. And to my surprise, the average accuracy of a candidate spotting the principles from the question was around 65% of the time. Okay, so if you only spot that principle 65% of the time, you can imagine that it will be considerably harder for you to give amazing answers, right? Because I believe it's clear, well understood, that Amazon uses behaviorally anchored rating scales to qualify your answers, from bad to great. And, the moment you spot the principle, you'll be better off improving your chances to pass interviews with them, right? So focus on spotting the principles. There's various places you can search for these questions if you don't want to use my training programs. Even AI can give you some interesting clues, even though in my experience AI is far from being enough accurate with these things. Okay. The second tip I'd like to share with you would be with respect to story banks. Okay, so everyone seems to be sold on the idea that you need a story bank to pass an Amazon interview, to which I would generally agree. What you should understand is that 95% of candidates fail building a story bank that's good enough in their own standards. Okay, and the reason why you'd fail to build a story bank is essentially you don't have enough time to build it, because it's a process depending on your ability to interview, right? For someone who's interviewing well, you could build your story bank in a few days. But if you're not, it might take up to 1 year to develop a story bank. And also, people struggle understanding which principles to pitch in that story bank, because most of you would use Amazon's leadership principles as the core behaviors to pitch in your stories. And you prepare 2 stories for each of Amazon's now 16 leadership principles, and you can see, where you get to a very long process even to brainstorm for enough story, right? Now, what helps here in building a story bank, which seems to be an efficient approach, I definitely agree with the approach, but the way you would achieve a story bank can be much improved by simplifying those core behaviors that you're interested in. This is, something I've done in my training programs, but you could also think for yourself which principles are the most relevant and which aren't, because it's not the same thing if you prepare for 16 principles or only 8 or 10. Right, so long story short, if you choose the strategy, the approach to develop a story bank, understand very well where you are in the process and whether you can afford building a story bank. You can even try building a story bank for free on my website, if you so wish. The general formula for success would be you would have a 3-to-1 ratio, that is 3 revisions for each story you develop, so that the story bank, the stories you're sharing would be qualitative enough. At least this is my best guess from the statistics I gathered from over 10,000 stories I have on that website. All right, so story bank is important, but understand most people fail reaching that goal. Right. The third thing I want to share with you with respect to star answers. Okay, so star answers are an amazing way to structure your answers and communicate more efficiently if you are a junior or a mid-level role. Okay? In my experience, Amazon will rarely, if ever, pay you a good salary for being able to structure your answers in the star format. So obviously you should understand the context, If you remember, I said you should have 3 revisions, a 3-to-1 ratio revision to story. One of those revisions could be the STAR format. However, there's still a long way from being able to structure your answers in the STAR format, from giving convincing answers that would again pitch the right principles and sell yourself on your strength, right? For example, I recently coached and trained someone for a director level role with Netflix, and they were easily able to come up with the STAR answers, but they prefer to come up with their own method to answer these interview questions based on their strength. They prefer to give more of an introduction with the framework and only then to pitch the direct STAR answers. So long story short, if you want to do extremely well with the STAR answers, understand these are basic. It's the most basic thing you could do to structure your answers in the STAR format, and there's still a good way to go from there, a few more revisions, so to speak, right? Okay, and my final point would be here to understand a bit the context of these Amazon interviews. So it's well known that Amazon generalized behavioral interviews, but not many also know that both Jeff Bezos and Andy Jassy have an investment banking background. And in that industry, behavioral interviews are used extensively. So that's where they come from, and that's where they're going. So this should give you an idea on where is the bar set in Amazon interviews. So I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.